Hello, everyone. Chris here with Jagerbombs Fantasy Sports and DFSR.com. Now that we are a couple weeks into the DFS NASCAR season, I have put together a cheat sheet tutorial video. I've added a bunch of stuff this year. If you are new to Jagerbombs Fantasy Sports or DFSR.com, just want to quickly go through where you can find the cheat sheet. First of all, head over to patreon.com/Jagerbombs. $10 a month for the one sport on NASCAR, or $20 a month gets you access to all the sports. These are in Canadian prices, so $13.50 as well as $27.50 for all sports. NASCAR package here, we cover all three sports. We've got all three series. We've got cheat sheets for all three series, picks for all three series, car, driver, manufacturer, team info, track history, track type history, current form, practice and qualifying updates with the new practice model this season, as well as a customizable model and some new research tools that we're going to go over here shortly. You can also get my cheat sheet by heading over to dfsr.com. Here you will find on the main page, if you scroll down, my weekly article, and then you can also go into the subscription plan here for $29.95 a month. Gets you access to all of my cheat sheets down here at the bottom, as well as our projections and optimizer tools for NHL, MLB, PGA, NFL, and NBA. For more information, just leave a comment below, hit me up on Twitter or in Discord chat as well. Along with that Patreon subscription, you're also going to get access to our Discord channel. Each and every week, I've got a thread set up here with information like what's going on each and every day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in terms of scheduling, trends that I find, drivers that I like for trucks and Xfinity, any kind of news that pops up. We've also got a news channel for each and every sport, including NASCAR, and then we've got our NASCAR Talk channel that is for our members as well. So make sure to check that out. With that, let's jump into the cheat sheet here. So anyone that is familiar with it, it generally looks pretty much the same this season. One thing I do have in terms of picks before practice and qualifying, as that procedure has changed a little bit this year, is my initial picks for the week before practice and qualifying you're going to find under the manufacturer tab. Same thing, green is core, blue would be secondary plays, yellow would be like value plays. And then as we get that practice and qualifying data, those plays will then be changed to the actual driver highlights, and these ones will be removed. So that's the first thing. But let's go through the cheat sheet here, left to right. So you've got salary for DraftKings and FanDuel. You'll have starting position once that qualifying is over. Then we get into track history. So we've got the last 10 races of each track, finishing position. We scroll over. We have averages for average finish, laps led, last two races, DK average and FanDuel average, and then last 10 here as well. So we get a little bit of a short-term sample size as well as a long-term sample size for each driver in terms of that laps led, average finishing position, and DK. Then we get into intermediate track type history. So each week this is going to change depending on the track type, but this is grouping all those, similar tracks together and looking at the data from them. For the most part, it's going to be just looking at the 2021 season and how they did on those tracks. For some tracks where they only race one a season, we might go back a year further and look at some 2020 data, and that's going to change week to week. So we can see each and every driver's there. We've got number, wins, top fives, tens, laps led, average run. Then we dive into fantasy and DK and FanDuel. So then right now, early in the season, the current form is 2022. So we've had two races so far this season, Daytona 500 as well as Fontana. So we've got that data here. And then at the start of the season, I've got a look at last season and how the drivers did throughout the season. And then as we progress into the season, this blue area, the season form, will be this current season's statistics. And then current form will be last 5, last 10. Then moving over, we've got the practice qualifying data. That will be filled out as we get into the practice and qualifying on Saturday for the Cup Series or Friday for the truck and Xfinity. That data, ranks, lap times, that stuff will be filled in there. And then everything in orange here, that is your model. So everything that we just looked at over here is now ranked. And then we can start putting in our numbers that add up to 100 for our model. So this obviously changes as we get practice and qualifying data. We'll start putting I usually every week is about 40 to 50% of the model is based around practice and qualifying, sometimes even more, 50 to 60%. But right now we've got our model set up as you see here. So then it weights it all and then it ranks it. So then that's where this overall ranking on the left and on the right hand side, both ends of that main cheat sheet tab, that is where you're going to find the overall rankings based on this model. Not my favorite plays, but how the model looks at it, looking at all these different factors. If you create your own copy of the cheat sheet, and you can do that by going to File, make a copy, name it whatever you want, and click OK. Creates your own copy. You can now edit it. You can come in here and change this model however you wish. If you want more track history versus track type history, maybe no form at all, maybe you want to build a model around 100% practice, you can go ahead and do that as you see fit. For more help on that, definitely reach out in the Discord chat, and I can help you out with that, or maybe make you another small video just for yourself. Okay, so some other things in the cheat sheet here that I want to go over is the fantasy matrix. So after qualifying, this pops up, and what this is used for, I'm just going to get rid of that. So we've got all the drivers, their salary, they're going to have their starting position. This is how many points they need to hit 4x value on DraftKings, 5x, and 6x. This is where if you create your own copy of the sheet, you can enter in your own projections for laps led and fast laps. I try and do this to figure out dominators as well. Like for instance, let's say Kyle Larson starts on the pole, and let's give him 80 laps led, 25. You see how this is changing as I edit that info in there. So what that tells us is for him to hit 68 points is what's going to give him 6x. He's going to need, with 80 laps led, 25 fast laps, starting from the pole, fourth place finish is going to get him to a 6x return, and obviously eclipses that by quite a bit if he was to win the race as well. So what you're going to see is this is going to populate once we have starting positions, and then all these numbers will be different for each and every driver. It tells you with each driver and his starting position how many points he can max out at if you put the projections for laps led. So what I like to do, first of all, each and every week when I'm breaking it down, is look at the drivers who can hit 5 to 6x without any dominator points. So obviously if you get guys that are starting, let's say top 5, top 10, let's just even expand that to top 10. Only obviously most tracks we only see about 2 dominators. So out of those guys that are starting top 10, you're usually only going to get 2 of them that are going to dominate. So if a lot of the guys starting top 10 are the higher price guys, you really got to narrow it down to 2 or 3 guys who you think can dominate. The other guys, because of the math that you're going to see, if Kyle Busch starts third, doesn't lead any laps, he can't even get you 5x for a win if he doesn't lead any laps. So that's where I use the fantasy matrix to kind of figure out guys that I think can lead laps, guys that I don't think can lead laps, based on where they're starting. Are they a good value? Where is their floor and their ceiling? And that's where I use the matrix to figure that stuff out. If you got any more questions, again, on anything that I cover here, you want me to go more into detail on this kind of stuff, hit me up and I can do some one-on-one videos, stuff like that, chats, anything like that. So moving on here, each and every week we've got the entry list. So we've got, I like to sort it by teams, manufacturer, driver, just so that you can come in here. If you do decide to maybe stack some teams, manufacturers together, this is the tab that I use for that reference. We've got track history, a little bit more detailed on this tab. So we've got all the different details here, and this is from Racing Reference. And then I threw in my calculations for Dominator points, as well as DraftKings and FanDuel data for the last 10 races. You can see that. And then at the bottom of every race, you're going to see some stuff here. Quality passes, total laps in the race. Now I just use that for calculation. I'm going to show you that here shortly. And then we've got correlation from start to finish. So it's just simply looking at what's the correlation between where a driver starts to where he finishes. Obviously a high correlation means track position is going to be very important. A lower one would be one more like Daytona, where it's around like 0.1. Sometimes we even see Daytona, Talladega in the negative correlation. So that's where I use that data just to kind of see how important qualifying position at the start of the race is going to be. And then we see how many drivers finished top 10 that started, top 5, 6th to 10th, 11th to 15th, and so on. How many drivers led 20 plus laps, how many led 50 plus, and how many led 100 plus. I use this early week before I start my article. This is kind of the research tool that I use to come up with how many dominators I want in the race, or how many dominators we're looking at this track, what's the correlation of track position, how many place differential plays we can look at, and so forth. So this is one tab I use a lot, and you'll see this on the sheets each and every week. Then we've got the intermediate data. So this is 2021 intermediate data. Same as you're going to see on the main sheet, but you can just kind of look at it a little bit more detailed here with the start, finish, average run, DK, FanDuel, and laps led for every race last year on intermediate tracks. Now this is new. This is the track position tool. So this would be the correlation that I talked about over on the bottom of the track history last 10, the detailed track history tab, 0.826. Vegas was the correlation from start to finish last fall's race here. So what I did this season and I'm going to be adding to the sheet each and every week is looking at that and every track in NASCAR. So we got the track position tool is what I'm going to call, is what I'm calling it right now. It's probably not what it's going to end up at, but we're looking at the correlations from start to finish. So this is where track position is more important. So a first rank would be track position very important and not important. So obviously we see our super speedways at the bottom. That's when I kind of knew that putting this stuff together that I kind of did this right, because Daytona, Talladega, the correlation from start to finish, as we know, there is a lot of crashes, and that's where our road courses and the low correlation comes in as well. We do see a lot of crashes, so we do see a lot of drivers that start towards the back that can. We do see a lot of double-digit place differential when it does come to road courses, so that makes a lot of sense. Now, looking at Las Vegas specifically, which is this week's race, if you're watching this video before the Las Vegas week, Phoenix is number one overall. Vegas is number one in terms of mile-and-a-half intermediate tracks over the last 2 races, number 7 over the last 5. So as you can see, it's slowly progressed to where track positions got a lot more important at Las Vegas. And, you know, that may be with, I believe 2006 was the last time they resurfaced the track. I'd have to double check on that, but that could be as the track wears out. It gets a little bit harder to pass, and thus track position means a little bit more. So that's what I'm going to be using this tool for every week. So if you're looking to compare tracks or anything like that, this is one I can use. Again, I can explain this a little bit further to you in a further video, but that's what I'm looking at. We've got a Dominator tab that I've been adding every week. Now, this data comes from, most of it, the DK points and the perfect lineup itself comes from LineStar. Free tool. You can go over there and look at the perfect lineups. Now, these are perfect lineups. So this is based on, you know, plugging it into a spreadsheet versus what the actual winning lineup was on DraftKings or that week. So keep that in mind. But it shows you the drivers that are in each perfect lineup. Oh, I put in here over the last 6 races. Actually, I've got the last 10 races. Their start, finish, laps led, fast laps, and how many Dominator points they had in that race. So you can come here and look at that. We've got previous perfect lineups. Now, this is from LineStar. The Dominator tab is just from laps led and the most Dominator points each of the last 10 races. The perfect lineups just looks at the last 4. You can kind of see what their salary was in that race on DraftKings, how many points they had, how many of those points were Dominator points, and then what the value was. So the perfect lineup has been between 6.5 to 7.5x. To win a GPP, kind of like we seen last week, we're probably looking at about 5.8 to 6.2x for the perfect lineup. Depending on where qualifying ends up and how many place differentials plays we have, that could be a lot lower as well. But generally, if you're hitting 5x, you're going to be cashing, whether it be cash games or GPPs. You're going to be at least min cashing in GPPs with that as well. So keep that in mind. So this is the quality passes. Now, this is similar to the correlation metric that I showed you over here, the track position tool. Very similar, but this is looking at quality passes per lap. The reason I did quality passes per lap, because if you just do quality passes, obviously some races have 500 laps, some have 70 laps if we're looking at road courses and stuff. So I wanted to make it a little more corollary between all the tracks and compare it a little bit better. So this is just pretty much the ease of passing on each and every track. So obviously, kind of like the last chart that we looked at, Talladega and Daytona were at the bottom in terms of correlation to start to finish. Inverse correlation here in terms of passing, because it is very easy. There is a lot of passing per lap. Road courses up second. That's one I want to dig into a little bit more. Doesn't seem like there should be a whole bunch of passing on road courses, but in terms of the numbers, it definitely stands up here. In terms of the intermediate tracks themselves, Las Vegas, number 1. So that correlates with what we've seen in terms of the correlation of start to finish on that other tool. So Vegas, in terms of the mile-and-a-half tracks, is one where we do see a little bit more, maybe a little bit more quality passing, but again, the correlation of start to finish is very high as well. So the track position is in there. So I guess what they're trying to say is if we go back and look at the actual cheat sheet itself and some of these past performances in a more detailed manner, which here is we do see some place differential, but we do also see a lot of drivers start in top 10, generally finishing, if we stretch that out into top 15, it's a very high percentage of the drivers start in top 10 and finish top 15. So track position is important, but we do see drivers can come through the field at Las Vegas should we see a top equipment car maybe start a little bit further back in the field. So don't be worried if we see like one of the top 15 cars in the field, one of the top teams, one of their cars starting outside the top 20, top 25. I'm not too concerned of them moving through the field at all. Probably not going to see dominator points from them, but generally we're going to see some place differential points. So that covers some of the tools here on the sheet and how I use it each week. Again, this model is going to change as we see practice and qualifying data coming every week, and with the new practice and the new way that I'm tracking practice each and every week, I will now have posted top 5, 10, 15, and if we get a lot of these 30 to 35 minute practice sessions versus the group practice qualifying, which is only 15 minutes, we're going to see more of the 20, 25, and 30 lap averages. That is going to help out in our calculations and analysis each week as well. But for now, 5, 10, and 15 lap averages will be added to the sheet along with qualifying. The model will be updated after qualifying, and that's when the final picks will come in. And then I also have a tab that will show up here with my top 10 points per dollar rankings in my own personal player pool each and every week. So tons of data to go through and use for your research. And if you're just looking to get in quick Sunday morning and make some lineups, I do have picks. And like I said, ranked by points per dollar to help you easily make lineups. Thanks for checking it out. If you want a copy of the sheet, please head over to patreon.com/Jagerbombs. For $10 a month, you can get your NASCAR package. And if you play more than one sport, we cover over 10 right now. You can get that package for $20 a month, or head over to dfsr.com for $29.95 a month. You get all my cheat sheets for every single sport, as well as our projections and optimizer tool for NHL, MLB, NFL, PGA, and NBA. Thanks for tuning in. If you got any questions, leave your questions below in the YouTube video. Hit me up on Twitter at Jager_bombs9 or in the Discord channel. You can get a free trial. The link is in the description below. Cheers and have a good weekend.